All right, what's going on, guys? This is Kyle Johns here. Wanted to make a quick video on pulling comps, making offers, stuff like that. Um, this is a huge part of your business. You know, whether you're doing wholesale and lease options, you need to know the value of what the property you're looking at, what it's worth, or what you're able to offer. Um, I also think that this is, this is just clearly a huge part of your business as a whole. You know, being able to accurately um, understand and make the correct offer um, to be able to pull, will allow you to get more properties um, on a day-to-day basis. I'm going to keep it fairly quick. I'm going to go through a couple different websites that I use and some of them that I don't use a lot, but are out there for you to use. And again, this is not going to cover every website. There's tons of websites out there. These are just the ones that I use day to day. And that I feel comfortable pulling my information from. And again, this is just done, whenever you're looking at a lot of properties every day, this is done fairly quickly. There may be better ways out there or different ways, and if that's the case and that way, then go ahead and use what you feel comfortable with. Again, this is what I use, and this is how I am able to take a look and accurately tell my team and communicate with my team on what we're able to offer, for any given property in the Philadelphia area. Some of these tools you can use across the nation. They're not specific to Philadelphia. The first one I'm going to go into, though, is the MLS. Now, you may be wondering, or saying, I'm an investor or just a normal person. I don't have access to the MLS to be able to pull comps. The reason I wanted to do this one first is because, of course, if you are able to have access to the MLS, it is a major help. It's a major tool that you're able to use in your business. I myself, I'm not an agent, but there are ways for you to get access to the MLS. Pretty simple, actually. The way that I was able to get access to the MLS in Philadelphia and in any other area that I may choose in the future, it's pretty simple. You find go do some meetups, go to some groups, go to some groups that let you meet other investors, other agents, and get connected. Do a little bit of networking, and meet a couple agents. Look for agents that you are able to kind of get that connection with as an investor. Maybe they are they cater to investors or cater to working with investors, and you kind of are able to get that connection, understand that they understand where you're coming from. For me personally, the way I was able to get it is by doing exactly what I explained. Kind of built a relationship up over a week or two. Started referring some properties over to this agent, and then just kind of proposed to him after about 2 weeks of sending him some properties, saying, hey, look, I would like to get MLS access as a assistant agent. Would that be possible if I sent all of the leads that we do not use over to you first? That simple. It was literally a 5-minute conversation. He told me to come down to the office. We signed it up, and we were able to go ahead and get that going. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the comps for this property. Through each one of these sources. Give me a second here. All right. So when I'm pulling comps off the MLS, if you do have MLS access, maybe you're an agent and you do have it, and I'm sure you know how to work your MLS much better than I do. But again, I'm going to show you what I do. I'm looking for active, pending, and settled. Also, guys, different MLS systems are set up different. So this may not be what yours looks like if you do have it. So take that into consideration. For this property, I'm going to be looking for, let's see, 50,000 to 275. I'm going to go with 0.2. All right, and then I usually do rolling date 6 months back. Not really interested if it's much further. And we'll go ahead and pull some results. All right, so it gives us 62 results within 0.2, so we're going to drop that down to 0.1. So 1/10 of a mile. All right, that's a little better. So once the MLS, this will pull your results, and again, this is going to be, pretty accurate on what, the area is, the properties are listed for, and then also you have your sold comps, what properties are selling for in the area. So this is on this street right here. And this one just sold at 160. Fairly decent property. Doesn't look like it was, it's not done overly nice. So you get the gist of it. You can use the MLS to pull some comps. Other things that you can use, this is a system that I actually just started using. It's called REI Black Book. It was given to me by someone that used to work with me. So I don't know too much about it. I'm not going to go into too much detail about what this entire program does. It does a lot more than just pull comps, but it is decent for pulling some comps. Been using it the past couple days. So we go ahead and type in that address. See if this one can pull it up. So again, if you do not have this product, then you would not have access to this. This is just one way that you are able to pull comps in that area. This one, I believe, yeah, it does it with starting out with the closest, in proximity. And it gives you all of these sold, properties that have sold in the area. So let's see here. So again, you're in that price range. You're looking at about 150 up to about 170 is what I'm seeing most. Again, I don't like, this is Philadelphia, your city may be different, or the area that you're looking at may be different, but whenever you are pulling comps in the city, it's literally almost a block by block deal. So all of these properties out here really mean nothing to me. Even this over here is pretty far away when you're talking city blocks. But still, we're still looking at the area average. Looks like it's about 150 to, I would say, maybe 180, 170, 180. All right, a couple websites that I used. These are available for everyone. See, I was already looking at it on here. This is a property that we already have under contract. And this should pull pretty close to the same results. Zillow is not always accurate, but if you don't have any other tools that you can use, it's not a bad tool. I mean, I use it for pulling comps on every property just because it's quick, it's easy. You can look very quickly to see what is sold in the area. And when you're on Zillow, if you just come up here, you're able to to somewhat put in your criteria of what you're looking for. If you want to look, for sale and sold. If you want to put in a certain price range, you have that there. If you're looking for a certain amount of bedrooms, the type of property you're looking for. And then again, I do, I'm not worried about any of this really. If you wanted to get more specific, then you can. But I do, select within the last 6 months. If it's in a very concentrated area with a lot of sold properties, a lot of properties that are for sale, I'll drop it down to 90 days to kind of clear some of the mess out. But what you're essentially trying to do here is look for the sold properties within the last 6 months, and you're going to be looking for properties that are for sale, to see what stuff, what people are advertising for. You don't want to base, what your offer off properties that are for sale. You would much rather do that off properties that are, have already been sold. But it is nice to know, what people, if you take a look at this property, let's see, it's a 2-bedroom. Let's see here. This property here is 1 block over. It's a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, so it's the same as the property that we have. It's for sale for $169. Looks like it's been redone on the inside, or is fairly new. It's also good, sometimes Zillow will tell you, okay, right here, 99 days on Zillow. Again, it's not 100% accurate. Sometimes when properties are listed, taken off Zillow and putting back up, it doesn't account for that. So this could be less, but you always want to check and see, how long these properties have been listed. Looks like, see, this property is on trend. So we may be able to actually go 2512. Go back over here and see if we can find it. Right here. So it's listed at 169, and yep, it's been on the MLS for 100 days. So that is not what you're looking for. You don't want your property, you don't want to base your offer off a property that it looks, fairly new and has been sitting on the market for 100 days. All right, another website here is called Find Comps Now. Now they have recently switched this website, or I guess they're working on it. It used to give you some information on the buyers. I'm not 100% sure. This is a very recent change in their website. But again, it's a great free resource that you have here. And it will give you some cash buyers in the area, and a bunch of other comps. And so, you can play around with this, take a look at it. It's just Find Comps Now. Of course, you've got Trulia. And you don't have to go through every one of these sites to pull your comps. Pick 2 or 3 that you are familiar, that you like using, and you can go ahead and use those, or you can use them all if you want. Not up to me. So again, just kind of gives you a different perspective, different website, same property. All right, you've got this site called ePraisal. All right. So, see, Zillow has this property at 134. Appraisal says 120. Now, of course, I mean, like we looked at, excuse me, earlier, properties that are redone, maybe you're not selling as high as 169, but clearly are selling, in that general range. This is sold right here at 159, and I believe this property, this is the same one we looked at on the MLS. Yep, that is not redone. This is another site that's pretty popular with people that pull comps. This is not a site that I use, and I believe you have to have or pay for this if you want to get like the full amount of information. Also, REI Black Book, you do have to pay for that. I think it's like $99 a month. I'm not 100% sure. Just started looking into it. I've known people that have used it in the past. I think it's a pretty solid system. I mean, my business is run out of Podio at this time, and soon we'll be switching it over to another CRM that I will definitely cover. Not yet though. But REI Black Book is specific to real estate, and if you're able to get access to it or something that you have in your budget, may be worth looking into. I believe they do a free trial. You can look into that. So again, this kind of gives somewhat, property information. Doesn't really give you your comps yet. So if you can go here, and you have to pay for this service. I'm not 100%. How much it costs? Okay, there you go. $49 a month. $79 or $149. All right. So whenever you're pulling comps, I mean, there's a ton of different ways to do this, and I'm sure, if you've been in the business for a while, then you know this. If you're fairly new to the business, what you're looking for is you're looking to be able to find what the property is able to sell for. Once, whether you're a wholesaler or a rehabber, whatever your position is, you always want to create a good deal. If you're a wholesaler, you want to be able to make money. You want your buyer to be able to make money off of the deal, of course, because if not, they're not going to buy it from you, right? Well, a general rule is the ARV, or the market value, times 70%, which is 0.7 times 0.7 minus the repairs minus your fee that you want to make on the property. So just to break it down with this property, and again, that's just a general rule. It's different for different areas. In Philly, I believe right now we're doing times 0.65 just to get it a little bit lower, to be a little bit more competitive. Different areas, or sometimes are times 0.8. It just really depends on your area. That's you have to play around with that and see what your buyers, what percentage they're buying at. But with this property, after looking at these comps, I would feel comfortable saying that, after it's redone, you're looking at selling it around the 155 to 160 range. You definitely want to be, and that would be highest. You don't want to overshoot this, because, like I said, you don't want your property sitting on the market for 100 days after you finish your rehab, if you're a rehabber. And whenever the rehabbers are looking at these properties, if you're a wholesaler, if they're looking at your property and they're looking at comps that are sitting on the market for 100 days at 170, well, that's not what they're looking for. They want it to sell. You want to have the nicest house on the block for the best price, right? So 155, 150 is maybe what you would put in, just to make sure that your offer is correct. Now, we don't have, I'm going to pretend like I do not have the repairs for this property, but you would want to have your repairs. You have to know your repairs in order to be able to pull or make a correct offer. So let's go ahead and put in 150,000. If it's at 0.70, they're going to be making 30% profit, right? All right, we're acting like we don't have any repairs. Let's see. Maybe, let's see, you're accounting for, let's see, there is no realtor. You can go ahead and account for their holding costs, closing costs, and maybe you want to make 10,000 on this property, right? So this does it for you, but again, if you just use that formula, then you're able to do the same exact thing. You would just take 150 times 0.7 and subtract your repairs and your assignment fee, right? So you do 150 times 0.7, puts you at 105, minus your repairs and your assignment fee. This throws in the holding costs, closing costs. You can throw in, a couple miscellaneous, a couple $1,000s extra to account for that kind of stuff. But you don't have to do that. So if the repairs on this property are $25,000, then your max offer, you'd be looking at around $59,500, right? So it's fairly simple. I just wanted to go over this because I feel like there's a lot of information out there on, tons of great information put out by a lot of people. But this is definitely one of the main factors in being able to submit and make the right decision on the offers that you are submitting to these owners, and you want to be able to be competitive and make sure that your offer is in the ballpark range of where it needs to be. So I hope this helps, guys. Comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.